gonna be honest with you here. I don't think you're ready for the next phase of cold outreach. And I promise I'm not saying that to be dramatic. It's just that the entire cold outreach landscape is shifting and most people have no idea. A couple days ago, Gmail just debuted a new personalized AI inbox. And not only that, but email deliverability has simply been going down about 15% every year for the last 5 years. LinkedIn is saturated and just reply rates across the board when it comes to cold outreach have gone down. But while everyone's panicking, a small group of business owners and go-to-market engineers have figured out where the next phase of cold outreach is actually happening. And so in this video, I'm going to break down the 7 biggest shifts that are happening right now in 2026 when it comes to cold outreach. And I highly encourage you to stick around till the end, because if you don't pay attention, you will get left behind and cold outreach will not be effective for you in 2026. All right, so quick context for who I am and why you should even listen to me. So I run Drippy.ai, the #1 Twitter outreach automation platform, and we've helped close to 10,000 businesses run outreach campaigns. I personally sent millions of DMs and have analyzed maybe dozens of millions of DMs, if that's even a thing that one can say. But anyway, I'm seeing the data in real time. I'm seeing what works, what's not working. I'm seeing where the landscape is moving. And so these 7 shifts that we're going to be talking about today are based on data and based off of what I've personally seen through millions and millions of DMs sent. This isn't based on theory, so let's dive right in. So shift #1, we talked about this previously very briefly, is that email deliverability is going down. I'm not talking about a small decline. This is almost a full-on crisis. So let me just run you through the numbers real quick. First of all, 17% of your emails don't even reach the actual recipient. And this isn't me making stuff up. All the sources will be linked down below the description so you can check them out for yourself. Then inbox placement went from 50% all the way down to 26% in literally just last year. And open rates dropped from 36% to 27%, again, just last year. You also have to realize that these studies are from 2024 and 2025, meaning AI assistants and AI inboxes like the one Gmail just implemented a couple days ago, again, link down below the description, weren't as popular, weren't as widely spread as they are now. And so deliverability is just going to keep going down, or at least that's what I predict going into 2026. And so obviously, if you're using cold email, you know that you need a backup channel. And for the longest time, that backup channel has been LinkedIn. And so that's where shift #2 comes in. So shift #2 is that LinkedIn is getting increasingly more saturated by the day. Everyone discovered LinkedIn at pretty much the same time, and so now everyone's sending cold outreach. There's literally dozens of LinkedIn outreach tools doing upwards of $10 million a year, and so just based off of those numbers, you know that there's a ton of people automating LinkedIn DMs. And so what did that cause? Well, LinkedIn DMs are now pretty much just as bad as cold email. Now, I don't know about you, but every single time I open up my LinkedIn and I go to my inbox and I see a message from someone that I don't know, I know they're trying to sell me something, and so I just read it and almost just kind of laugh. And I can imagine that this is what most people do as well. You get a new connection request, you accept that connection request, and then instantly you get a message, or you magically wait an hour and then the message appears asking how your day's been, maybe some personalized line based off of where you went to school, and then at the end of their message they just hit you with a hey, by the way, and then they hit you with a pitch, right? We've all gotten those messages, we all know what those look like, and they're just not as effective as they used to when LinkedIn was just starting out. And this isn't to say that LinkedIn and cold email aren't worth it anymore. What I'm saying is that these can't be your only channels. You can't rely on these because it's very inconsistent unless you are literally top 1% in the game. And this all isn't to say that cold email or cold LinkedIn outreach isn't worth it anymore. I'm just saying it's a lot more competitive and it's a lot less effective than it used to be. And so naturally, to keep getting the same results that we used to get, we want to move where people aren't really sending a ton of DMs, but you do get a lot of replies, which brings us to shift #3. Shift #3 is that there's a new channel emerging for cold outreach, and that channel is Twitter, or X now, DMs. Now, before you skip this video saying, dude, Alex, I only log on to Twitter to check memes and to catch up on the news, just hear me out. Because the people that are using Twitter DMs and actually know what they're doing are getting upwards of 5% reply rates like it's nothing. And you can compare that to your last cold emails. I'll just wait here. And so why is this happening? Like, why are Twitter DMs so effective right now? The reason number one is that there's 100% deliverability. Every single Twitter DM you send will land in message requests. Won't land in spam. There's no email servers blocking you. There's no promotions. There's none of that. There's no AI agents in Twitter DMs. There's, for the most part, no assistants in Twitter DMs. And so you always reach whoever you're reaching out to. Number two, there's honestly not a lot of competition. Your prospects are getting tons of emails and tons of LinkedIn requests every single day. And I can pretty much guarantee that your ICP on Twitter is probably only getting a handful of cold Twitter DMs every single month. So the odds of them seeing it and replying it, if it's something that's relevant to them, is just way, way, way higher than LinkedIn or cold email. Reason number three is that big time decision makers are actually on Twitter and they control Twitter themselves. Meaning for the most part, these guys will have Twitter on their phone. This is what they're scrolling when they're in the car getting driven around by someone. This is what they're scrolling when they're in the bathroom, maybe between meetings, you name it, but they're on Twitter. And my favorite way of explaining this is I made a post this was maybe last year, and Elon Musk himself actually commented on that post. Just think about that. Like, when would you get Elon Musk to, number one, reply to one of your emails? When would you get Elon Musk to comment on your post on LinkedIn? Like, it's literally just not happening and never happens except for on Twitter. And so that's why you need to be sending Twitter DMs and you need to be building a brand on Twitter. Another thing is that it doesn't matter if your ICP is posting on Twitter or not. If they're not posting, that's actually even better. Why? Because most Twitter users are actually just lurkers. Most people are just looking and they're just scrolling. They don't even like stuff. Maybe they follow a couple people, but for the most part, they are not going to be super active, and that's completely fine. It just means that there's actually going to be less people because it's going to be harder to find them. But if you watch this video, you're going to know exactly how to find them. So you're in luck. But obviously this all won't last forever. There will come a time where Twitter is just as saturated as cold email and LinkedIn, which is why shift 4 is super, super important. So shift number 4 is that personalization is no longer optional. Twitter isn't a magical platform where just because you're reaching out to them on Twitter, they're going to reply. These guys have seen what cold outreach messages look like. And so even if you reach out to them via Twitter where no one else is reaching out to them, if your message is bad, they're not going to reply. If they can tell that you didn't put time into it, they're simply not going to reply. And so when you're reaching out to these big time founders on Twitter, yes, these guys probably will read it, but if it's not interesting, if it's not relevant to them, then they're not going to reply. So you need to make sure that you're personalizing your messages. Generic templates do not work. Please don't ChatGPT it. You can use ChatGPT to personalize, right? Or you can use tools like Drippy.ai to personalize, or Clay, or whatever. But don't ask ChatGPT to build you a DM script, because those are always horrible. If you have questions on how to personalize and what scripts work well, I'm going to leave a link down below in the description that goes over our best performing scripts across, again, millions and millions and millions of DMs worth of data. All right, so shift number 5 is that you need to understand the difference between low and high volume outreach. Because yes, there's two ways to do outreach, and we're going to be talking about Twitter DMs specifically, but honestly, most people don't realize this. So the low outreach game when we're talking about Twitter is very, very simple. If, for example, you're an agency or you're a go-to-market engineer at a company and you have a bunch of cold email and LinkedIn data, what you can do with Twitter is, hey, you don't need to replace all your cold email and LinkedIn infrastructure with Twitter. What you can do is you can run all those leads through something like Drippy to find all those guys' personal Twitter handles. And so then you can run campaigns, again, via Drippy, to reach out to people that didn't reply to you elsewhere. So if there's one CEO that you've been trying to get a hold of for the last, couple months, you keep hitting them on email, you keep hitting them on LinkedIn, you're interacting with them on LinkedIn, then might as well chuck them a quick message on Twitter, see if they reply, right? And so that's how you can use Twitter to essentially just squeeze out more juice from your existing leads, again, that you've already scraped. You already spent a bunch of money getting those leads, so might as well get more use out of them. And honestly, this is what I see a lot of cold email agencies doing, and they're keeping it on the low right now, but this is super, super, super effective. And so you can imagine what happens here. You get a reply from someone that no one else is getting replies from, because you're not just reaching out to them on LinkedIn, you're not just reaching out to them on email, you're reaching out to them on Twitter. And So you make them feel like you want to reach out to them specifically. They're not just another lead on your list. You're reaching out to them specifically. And if you have a good offer and it resonates with them and it actually solves the problem that they have, then odds are they will reply. Now, on the other hand, if you're trying to replace cold email and cold LinkedIn, then you want to be going for the high volume Twitter outreach strategy. Now, what's really nice about Twitter is that you can send up to 500 DMs per day per account, and you can essentially just build as many accounts as you'd like. Again, if you're doing this, highly recommend you automate the process by using a tool like Drippy.ai. Obviously, I'm biased here, but it is by far the best tool out in the market. All right, so shift number 6, and I touched up on this briefly in the last shift, is that data enrichment is critical. If you want to use Twitter DMs at scale, or if you just want to use Twitter DMs at all, you need really good data. And it's way harder than it sounds. Like, I know there's ways that you can theoretically find someone's Twitter handle by connecting AI to something like Clay, but for the most part, those will give you some very, very bad results. And so if you have hundreds of thousands or millions, whatever that number is, of leads, whether you have like all their data or just their LinkedIn handles, what you can now do is you can take all that data, chuck it into Drippy, and Drippy will actually search its own database and figure out what their Twitter handles are. Now, it'll also give you a couple, right? So if it thinks it's one, but it might be two, it'll give you both of them, and then you can decide, right? And so it's super, super effective. We are just rolling it out in beta. And so if this is something that's interesting to you, let us know down below in the comments, and I will reach out to you personally to give you early access. But this is something that we've been working on in the background for very, very long, and I am certain that this will change the game completely. Super, super excited about this. So again, if you're interested, let me know down below in the comments. And so yes, this will allow you to upload a CSV, and then you will get everyone's Twitter handles that you can upload directly onto Drippy and start sending messages out that way. Typical match rate as of right now is over 90%. So yes, this will be a definite game changer. All right, and shift number 7 is that automation is essential for scale. You pretty much cannot scale if you're not automating. The only way to really get around automations is by hiring a ton of people. That's going to be super, super, super expensive. And for the most part, just based off what I've seen, people with huge sales teams always want their guys to use automations so that they just have more leverage. And so on Twitter, for example, if you're doing it manually, maybe you'll send 50 messages a day, and that's all, like a lot if you're doing it manually. But if you're using a tool like Drippy to automate your Twitter DMs, you'll find leads automatically, right? You can just, if you already have leads, you can just upload that CSV. Drippy will find those Twitter handles for you, or you can just use Drippy's native lead scraper to find leads. Then it'll help you personalize each and every single message based off of prompts that you give it, and it'll actually just reach out to everyone. So you will be sending the max volume in a very, very safe way, so that you don't have to spend all day just copy and pasting messages into people's Twitter DMs. And honestly, what we've seen work best is not automating the whole conversation. We typically recommend people automate the initial message and automate follow-ups, but once we get a reply, then that's when we recommend the team actually hops in and handles the conversation until that leads to a book call. All right, so those are the 7 biggest shifts that are happening in cold outreach right now. So let's just recap very quickly, because this has been a little bit of a longer video. So number 1, email deliverability is collapsing. 2, LinkedIn is getting very, very saturated. 3, Twitter DMs are the way to stay ahead of the curve going into 2026. 4, personalization is no longer optional. 5, you really want to know the difference between a low volume strategy versus a high volume strategy to decide which one you want to run with. 6, data enrichment is critical, especially if we're talking about Twitter outreach. And 7, automation is 100% necessary for scale. Bottom line is that the next phase of cold outreach is happening on Twitter. And now that you have this information, you can take action while there's low competition, or you can just wait for everyone else to figure it out and hop on Twitter once it's just as saturated as LinkedIn and cold email. If you want to try this out for yourself for completely free, hit the first link down below the description. It will give you a 7-day free trial to Drippy. I highly recommend you check that out. And if you want a full course walking through the best script templates, the best offers, the best leads and where to find them, and how to get everything set up on Drippy so you can send highly personalized messages at scale via Twitter, then I will leave you with this video right here that will walk you through everything. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you there.